Conversation with James O'Brien.
21 minutes after 10, and already the Twitter response has confirmed my own fears that this is not as straightforward as it initially appears. The story we're responding to is a call from a childhood obesity expert for parents to tell their children that they're fat to move out of this cult of denial. But as Alistair, I think, very persuasively points out, if you tell a child they're fat, you run the risk of bringing the school taunting into the home where the child should feel safe. And Tony goes further. Do folk think that overweight folk don't know they are overweight? They do. But let's have an article legitimising bullying, eh? And that is the fear. And how do you do it? How do you tell a child that they're fat, especially your own child, who you exist to love and to protect? But in a way, helping them deal with the fact that they're seriously overweight would be an act of love and protection. Turning away, putting your head in the sand and your fingers in your ears is the opposite. But it feels like love. It feels more loving to let your child... Well, look, here is something that's going to make your child unhappy in the short term, but considerably happier in the long term. That's a tough calculation to make. It's a tough calculation to make in your own life. You know, short-term pain for long-term gain. If that was easy to digest, none of us would smoke, none of us would drink. All of us would exercise absurdly. Short-term pain for long-term gain. We can't even do it as adults. So when we look at the people to whom we feel this unbelievable level of love, we look at these little creatures, these little human beings that we've brought into the world or are bringing up, and we say to them something that we know will hurt them because we know it will do them good in the long run. Man, it's not easy. But is it right? 0845 606 0973. Alistair and Tony, the two tweeters I just read out, persuasive and they're poignant, they're moving, they're compelling. It doesn't mean they're right. You might run the risk of bringing the school taunting into the home. You might be telling people who already know they're overweight that they're overweight, but you might also be providing them with the impetus they need to do something about it. Tom's in Croydon. Tom, what would you like to say?
In response to bringing taunting into the household, I mean, if done right, if done lovingly, Kelly, like you say, and I'm unprecedented, you can't put into words how much you love your children, and anybody who's had children will know that.
Anyone who's had parents, arguably.
Yeah, you're not out to taunt your children at all, and I think it's done lovingly and done right, and I mean, my eldest child is 6. He's not even fat, a little bit chunky around the belly.
That's fat.
And it is fat.
Sorry,
it is fat.
the 6-year-old, that's fat.
No, yeah. Well, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm only being brutal. I don't want people to think...
He's clinically, in any way,
No, I understand.
affected.
I understand, but the first thing this expert said that parents do is to say phrases just like the one you use. So I'm not giving you coaching or bullying you. I'm just sort of being the devil's advocate. I'm not comfortable in this role today, but I'm gonna do my best to fill it.
No, of course, and I understand what you're saying. But anyway, back to the point. He is fat, and we've taken to telling him, you know, we use the term fat and we use the term overweight. We don't use it, we don't make any mention to his physical appearance, we don't make any mention to teasing or, you know, having trouble making friends with anybody or anything like that. It is simply a reference of, you know, you have more weight than you should.
How does he respond? Does he understand?
He's responded very well, because at the end of the day we say to him, you know, you don't want to get fat and get unhealthy, get unwell, you want to stay healthy and well. We love to go and ninjago is a big thing in our house, ninjas. We say, you know, train like a ninja.
Ninja? Like a cross between ninja and Lego?
Yeah, it's Lego, little ninja Lego figurine.
That was supposed to be a joke. I had no idea it existed. Okay, so that's brilliant, because you can say you can never be a ninja if you have another biscuit.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And it's never ever related in a demeaning way. He never takes it in a demeaning or
Are you sure?
Offensive way. Yeah, because his response is always positive. He's always got a smile on his face. We always say it to him with a smile on our face. It's not about him being picked upon in the house. It's not about him being singled out. We include everybody in the conversation because we have a home with with my mum and their grandma. The grandma is fat, heavily fat.
Not listening.
Doesn't say she knows it. She's an adult like the rest of us. We talk about it. There are concerns. And we include everybody. I've got a bit of excess fat. I include myself in it. We also include ourselves in part of the solution as well. So he's not in any way singled out or left out.
I get it.
Of a family.
I think you're definitely right, actually. But oddly, I mean, you've pushed me back towards where I began, which was that there is probably a time and a place, and what you've reminded us of is that with so many potentially difficult issues in life, it has a heck of a lot to do with context and content. It's not whether you should do it, it's how you should do it. And it sounds to me, Tom, I hope you'll allow me to say this, it sounds to me that you're doing it pretty close to perfect. John's in Canning Town. John, what would you like to say?
Yeah, morning, James. What is, you said about the school's not been allowed to send letters out to use the word obese, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I received a letter from my child's school about 3 or 4 weeks ago telling that my son was actually obese.
They use the word obese.
They use the word obese, it's actually in writing. And they've actually called in the social service. My child has been put on a child protection plan saying under the heading of neglect.
Because of his weight?
Because of his actual weight. I mean, he comes from a big family. I'm a big man, I'm 24 son. His grandfather, everyone in one side of the family and his other side of the family are very big people.
How old's the lad?
He's 78 in November.
So you've got social services coming into your life accusing you of neglect because your son is fat?
Because my son is overweight, which the school brought in. Don't get me wrong, James, he is overweight.
How big is he, John?
Well, he's 6 stone and he's 7 years of age.
Yeah, that does sound quite big.
He is a very big boy, but at the end of the day, there's no need. I hate that word. I've grown up with that word all my life, and I hate it.
What, fat or obese?
No, obese. I can't stand that word. It's a disgusting word to use. I mean, I'm keep saying he's getting big, he don't like Daddy's got pains in his knees, he can't get up off the settee. You know, it's just ringing up about that word. Disgusting word to use.
Well, I understand your pain. I do. Obviously, having heard it all your life and not tackled your own weight problems means it hasn't helped. But if I mean, how do you feel about social services being involved? Because
I think it's disgusting.
well, hang on, let me don't shoot me down. You're not going to like what I'm going to say, but you've had 7 years to sort it out yourself. Maybe it's time to call in the experts.
I mean, my parents and mother passed away, the rest of the soul, but I was brought to doctors, I was brought to hospital for weight, stuff like that. Nothing ever to become. I don't know if it's an excuse, but I come from a family, my family are Irish, they're all big men.
Well, yeah, but they wouldn't be that big if they didn't eat that much. And I know, again, oh God, I shouldn't have ever bitten this one off, because it just puts me in the role of being nasty to people who are clearly already suffering quite enough, which is what you warned me would happen when you sent me the tweet saying this just runs the risk of extending the culture of bullying beyond. Does John sound to you like an unloving father? Does he sound to you like a neglectful father? He doesn't sound like that to me, not by any stretch of the imagination, but he does sound like a man who's in a little bit, perhaps, of denial, and who is better placed, perhaps, to advise on what would help a fat child, an overweight child, grow up not to be an overweight adult than those of us who aren't living it. And I'm going to use it, even though it sounds a little bit inappropriate. This is the radio programme that talks to the people who are living the stories in the news, not the people merely reporting. It's 10:30. Lisa Aziz is here with the headlines.
There are reports in the last few minutes that the Libyan Prime Minister has now been freed after he was kidnapped in Tripoli. Al Aziz was seized by gunmen from a hotel in the capital at dawn this morning. As Lord Justice Leveson prepares to face questions from MPs shortly about the idea to introduce a royal charter to regulate the press industry, Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg has told LBC 97.3 he's against politicians getting involved in such regulation.
I think anything which puts regulation of our wonderfully raucous, in fact uniquely I think, raucous press in the hands of politicians and governments would be an absolute disaster.
Energy giant SSE is increasing gas and electricity prices by an average 8.2%, the first of the 6 major suppliers to announce a rise this autumn. It'll mean an extra £2 a week for its dual fuel customers from next month. Uswitch has called it a crippling low for consumers, still reeling from last winter's price hike. Thousands of travellers are facing long delays at London airports because of a one-day strike by French air traffic controllers. Ryanair's had to axe more than 70 flights to France, Spain and Portugal, while EasyJet was forced to cancel more than 50 services due to the action that started at 5 a.m. At 10:15, the FTSE was up 33 at 63.71. London's travel delays continuing in Sydenham, with the A212 Sydenham Road closed between Newlands Park and Shrewsbury Road after an accident. And London's weather, a mix of sunny spells and showers, feeling cold in the strong winds this morning. Highs of 12 Celsius right now in Leicester Square. It's 10 degrees. LBC 97.3, it's 10:32.
LBC 97.3. Call 0845 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC 973. This is London's biggest conversation with James O'Brien.
10:32, you're listening to LBC 97.3. Why it's a parent's duty to tell their child that they are fat. Look, it's a newspaper headline, but it is a headline atop an article by the lead practitioner and researcher at somewhere called the Weight Management Centre in London. It's in a newspaper that loves an inflammatory headline, as Ed Miliband discovered last week. The inflammatory headline doesn't always bear much relationship to what is beneath it, but in this case I have to tell you that it does. So you can sit here, isn't it fun? Sorry, just indulge me for a minute. I know I'm at work, but in a way I'm just having a chat with you as well. It's not formal, is it, on days like this? Because I can sit here in the test tube, in what's it called, in the vacuum, before I go on there, right? Let's have a quick chat with a couple of colleagues, maybe run the rule over some of the stories in the news, decide what we're going to talk about, check the calendar, make sure it's not actually Groundhog Day, because everyone else is talking about a family they found with a lot of children and therefore a big benefits bill. Might talk about that next, from a slightly different perspective. And you think, oh, well, that'll work, and we'll talk about this, and then you speak to someone like John. Last caller before the news. Dad, 7-year-old son, letter from school. Uses the word obese, which John has spent his whole life reeling and flinching from. And then social services get involved, and the word neglect appears.
Oh.
Tracy and his parenting. How the hell is that happening? First response. Second response, you know what? Make the situation any worse. Okay. It's the when and the weather. You should tell your child that the child is overweight. And talk to me about other people you know as well. Talk to me about this denial that's described. Do you know people whose children have got a problem, but who can't or won't see it or admit it themselves? Talk about the adult who know their child. You know their child's got a problem, but the parent will not or cannot admit it. Sam's in Sutton. Sam, what would you like to say?
Hi James, thanks for taking my call. It was a couple of things really. The first one being, it's a bit surprising that the parents have got to turn around and tell the child that they're fat, when surely it was their partial responsibility in the first place to ensure that their child has an active life or, stays at a certain weight. The other thing, I think it's going down a very dangerous path to tell your child you're fat. My little boy, who just before his 4th birthday, was standing in the bar, tapping his tummy, and he said, "Mummy, I don't think I should eat sweets and chocolates anymore because I'm getting a big fat tummy." Now, for a 4-year-old, before he was 4, to even contemplate or comprehend weight issues, how dangerous is that going to be when he starts going to school? And he must pick it up. Well, I think they also pick it up from the parents, because, I'm constantly saying,
I just said he's heard mum do that. I meant you.
Exactly. He's probably heard me, or even his dad turning around and saying, I need to lose a bit of weight, I've been eating too much recently. In fact, he's probably heard it from grandparents or from uncles.
That is almost osmosis, isn't it? It's almost impossible not to absorb the obsession that a lot of adults have with their weight, but I guess the children most at risk won't be in houses where it's being talked about a lot, and that's sort of the point, isn't it?
Exactly, that's precisely it, and that's why, with my first point being, is surely then they call, or the parents that it just seems strange that they...
So the suggestion, let's unwrap this together. The suggestion will make sense to the people that it doesn't affect, but it will be frightening to the people that it does. People are not frightening, offensive to the people that it would affect, like John, the caller before you.
Precisely, and it is strange that you're asking somebody who is
massively overweight themselves, to call their child fat, so surely that's holding up a mirror to them, which they don't want to do.
Well, let's change the vocabulary then to tell your son that he is, and I know yours isn't, but if he was, that he is overweight. You know, I thought, was it Tom, the very early caller, who's got a 6-year-old who is not exactly at his fighting weight, and they talk about it in terms of health and not being able to be a ninja. You don't have to say you're fat, son, sort it. You can say you're never going to be a ninja if you have another biscuit, and that sort of thing works. But you still need a word to describe the opposite of what you're trying to make them. So unhealthy is not quite good enough.
No, and you know, the children are quite impressionable, and they have their own little heroes. So surely it's best to try and identify with them, one of their heroes, and say, you know, I don't know, Peppa Pig, Dr. Fruit, or you know, whoever it is that they identify with.
Not the best things. I mean, George Pig lives on chocolate. Are you mad, woman? What are you doing? They need a really good role model, like a pig.
Well, I just know that's who he likes, and that's who you can say about.
Sophia the first in our house, but obviously you've got a boy, so that's unlikely to be as transported by a fairy tale princess. But you're right, and let's go sports as well, with lads in particular. You're going to have sport popping his head up at some point. But again, that thing you touched on really generously, actually, and I think really intelligently, the notion that, well, of course it makes sense to parents like ours who haven't got this particular problem in our lives at this particular point. But for the parents who have, all I'm getting is objection and disgust. For example, this tweet from Chris, who says his Twitter name contains the word big, so I don't know whether he's speaking from a perspective of being large-sized himself, as if kids don't feel, translate that, Chris, if you don't mind, as if kids don't feel rubbish enough, aren't made to feel rubbish enough by the people who sneer, make fun and bully them. Now you want the parents to join in. It does feel like that, doesn't it? Terry's in Wallington. Terry, what would you like to say?
Hello, James. Thank you for calling. I look at this from a different perspective. My daughter was a very slim kid, very active child, up until the age of about 14, 15, when she went through puberty. She got on weight, probably what used to be called puppy fat, but she got nipped at school quite mercilessly about it, and she went on then to develop an eating disorder. She became very conscious of her size. She developed anorexia, and her mother and I noticed obviously something wasn't right. We took her to doctors, etc. And what the long and short of it is, her anorexia has developed into bulimia, and at the age of 29 she died.
Oh, Terry.
6 years ago now. I can see, the damage that can be done, not just obviously to my daughter, but obviously to the rest of the family as well.
Of course you can. And if I ask or say anything that you find uncomfortable or inappropriate, just tell me, alright?
Yes, certainly, yeah.
Previous calls have done so much less to remind us that this is reality for many families rather than a sort of theoretical conversation. But she obviously didn't need anybody to be telling her that she had a weight problem, and the people who did tell her that she had a weight problem were the people responsible for probably prompting the eating disorder. So, and this is the question that I know you can refuse to answer. When you look back, is there anything you think you could or should have done differently? I mean, right back to that point you identified, that point of puberty when the weight came on.
You always look back and wonder whether you could have done anything differently. As I say, we took her to doctors who then referred her on to hospitals. She attended an eating disorder clinic. But unfortunately, once that seed has implanted itself in the mind, it's almost impossible to move on from there. So she spent 50% of her life hating herself, hating what she was doing to herself, but she couldn't help it.
Is there a tipping point? I mean, because presumably what you described as the puppy fat didn't become a problem until the bullying started.
Well, no, it didn't. No, I mean, it wasn't don't even think it was much bullying. It was just comment that made her more successful than she needed to be, in fairness. You know, obviously once she developed the eating disorder, and she came, her whole personality changed. She became withdrawn.
It's a mental health issue, isn't it? I mean, it's easy to...
It is, yeah. Yeah.
So irrational, is it? That's the whole point about mental health.
It is indeed. There's nothing you could do to make her understand what she was doing was harming herself. I mean, she was told by the doctor, she was told that if she continued down this path, now it could possibly kill her.
It's too late.
No, this was really
Too late in her mind, the information she couldn't...
Oh, yes, the seed had been planted, and whatever, no matter what she did, she could never settle down again to a normal life.
Have you got other children?
I have, yeah, another daughter and a son.
And did they have any weight problems growing up, or...?
No, not really, no. It was just, this was my eldest daughter. The other two, they were aware that there were problems, certainly, you know, as the illness progressed. But fortunately, it's just one person's personality against another.
Yeah, do you know, it's interesting you use that phrase, because I think the next caller is coming from the opposite end of the pitch, as it were, and will say it was good for me to be told, and words into her mouth. But that's what just occurred to me, is that you're both right, actually. I mean, your daughter having attention drawn to her weight was disastrous, and for other people it will be actually the answer to their problems. It will be the beginning of the recovery, whereas for your little girl, Terry, it was the beginning of the end, in a way.
It was indeed, yeah. I just think you need to be very careful how you, if you're going to talk to certainly a child about issues like this, you need to be very, very careful how you approach it.
Yes, and I don't think anyone would dare to dispute that point with a father from your perspective. So thank you, mate. Thank you for calling in as well. It's 10:43. Simone is in Wakefield. Simone, what would you like to say?
Morning, James. The reason why I called in is because I was told in so many words that I was fat.
Don't hang on. So, in so many words, can you remember what the words actually were, roughly?
Yes. Oh my gosh, what have they done to you? You cannot keep this weight on. What happened was I had the opportunity to go and live in the States for a year when I was 9.
Right.
Now, when I left, I was nice and slim and like, you know, normal average size. And when I got back and my mum met me at the airport, she didn't actually recognise me. She walked straight past me.
Your mum?
My mum.
And then the next line was, oh my God, what have they done to you?
Yeah.
So you hadn't seen her for a year. Presumably you were quite looking forward to a cuddle.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how much weight did you put on, Simone?
I was fat. You know, there's no kind of like, you know, ways of sugarcoating it. I was fat, I was chubby, I definitely looked different. My face was full, and of course I was just big all over.
So your mum took you by the scruff of the neck and shook it all off?
Well, pretty much, yeah. But luckily for me, when I was at school, back in the day, we're talking like 30 years ago, they put the kids on a diet. So there was a handful of children that were overweight.
Really?
We wasn't allowed puddings. We had to have like an apple for our dessert.
But
And, you know, we
you
had
could
to
make
have
that
her for
sound...
lunch.
Look, if we were coming at this from another angle, I could make that sound like child abuse and open up the phone lines.
Right.
Imagine, what it's like painting a sign on your backside saying, bully this child for being overweight. They're not allowed pudding. They're in the no pudding club. And yet it really worked for you and you see it in time.
Honestly, it really did work. I mean, I'd lost the weight literally within a few months. It didn't have any effects on me. However, I have struggled with my weight because my family does have, you know...
Which is why your mum was so conscious of it in the first place. So between you and the last caller, Terry, that simple line about there's no mode of behaviour, there's no menu, if you pardon the pun, that's going to fit every overweight child. It really is horses for course. I have to say, Simone, before you go, calling from Wakefield, if I lived in Wakefield, is that bakery over the road from the station that does the sausage sandwiches still there?
I'm not too sure.
I think if I lived in Wakefield, I might have had a slightly different approach to my own personal way. That is some bakery. It's 10:46. Jennifer Saunders will be with us after Andy McCall brings you up to speed with the travel news.
And still watching delays, James, around Sydenham, the A212 Sydenham Road. It's shut between Newlands Park still and Shrewsbury Road after an accident much earlier this morning. Restrictions continue in Blackheath on the A2 just by Godfors Road, but the congestion is certainly cleared now. North Circular coming off at Ilford, the northbound exit partially blocked after an accident, and still watching some delays at the Oscorp Road just by the junction of Novan Place down from the A4 after an accident earlier on. Keep another moving. Next travel update is in half an hour.
This is LBC 97.3.
Hi, I'm Steve from Waitrose.com, and I'd like to give you £5 off your first online grocery shop with us.
I'm Joe, and I'll give you £10 off your second.
Tim here. I'm chipping in with £15 off your third, £20 off your fourth, and even a full £25 off your fifth.
Hi, I'm Claire, and that's not all. We won't even charge you for delivery.
As stories go, this is a pretty rewarding one. Go to Waitrose.com and get a full £75 off your first 5 online shops. Minimum order per shop £75. New customers and selection barcodes only. See website for conditions.
When a business friend jumps into my cab screaming, "Get me to my meeting in double quick time," I'm tempted to tell him the best way. Go to Meeting by Citrix. Just download their online meeting software and you can meet your clients face to face right now. You can even share your screen with them. Try it and see how much time and money you'll save. Now, doesn't one great tip deserve another?
Discover the fast, easy way to online meetings from anywhere. Visit gotomeeting.co.uk for a free 30-day trial.
This Saturday, there's another £10 million jackpot and another 1,000 raffle winners of £20,000.
I got my ticket.
Don't want to miss it. New Lotto. Get your ticket now.
Lotto's minimum £2. Games rules and procedures apply. For more details on the game changes, go to nationallottery.co.uk. Players must be 16 or over.
WellKid Baby is specially developed by Vitabiotics for babies from 1 to 12 months. Delicious tasting drops made just for little ones with 16 nutrients including vitamin D. WellKid Baby Drops from Vitabiotics, the UK's #1 vitamin company. Available from Boots, pharmacies and vitabiotics.com.
LBC 97.3. This is London's biggest conversation with James O'Brien.
12 minutes to 11 and you are listening to LBC 97.3 and I am joined in the studio by Jennifer Saunders, who really does fit into the category of needing no introduction except to add to your glittering CV.
Well, it's radio. You have to introduce me because...
Well, no, I know I have to say you're here, but I don't need to say,
Okay,
say who you are or what you've done.
Continue.
I wasn't going to just start talking without saying your name. When I said you don't need any introduction, I was employing the figure of speech which would say comedian,
Okay,
writer,
you're the professional.
star,
I understand.
yes. And now, to add to the glittering CV, autobiographist.
Yes. Oh, is that what you're called?
I had no idea.
Yes, I'm calling myself that now.
And well, I suppose by the standards of some showbiz autobiographies, you could have had 5 volumes out by now, couldn't you? So
Well, if I had any memory, I could, yes, probably.
It's called Bonkers, which is not a homage to the Dizzy Rascal track of the same name, but
Which
rather...
I didn't know about until today.
Did you not? Someone else has
Someone
pointed
said I
this
was
out to you.
bonkers. How does it go? Sing
Some
it to me.
people think I'm bonkers, but I just think I'm free. Something, something, something. There's nothing crazy about me.
I'm going to use that to come on stage at the Cheltenham Literary Festival. That's what I'm going to do now.
They'll be rocking in the arms.
That's excellent.
It's a comprehensive autobiography, though. It
It
is.
goes from sort of beginnings to ends.
Yes, exactly.
But not in a straight line.
No.
Because if I read a biography, I generally get bored by people's grandparents
Yeah.
and the sort of history of family life and that sort of stuff. So it sort of starts in the middle and then goes off track quite a lot.
It's in a sort of
Yeah, in a show busy way.
glances in the rearview mirror. As
Yes,
it were,
that's
and stuff
exactly what it is.
Um,
I actually wrote it a bit like a sketch show because I had trouble writing it as a sort of straight book, like you try and imitate how you've seen books written, and it just didn't work because it didn't sound like me, and so I decided to write it as if each chapter was a sketch show. So you start off with the main theme, and then you have lots of little sketches of other parts of my life that come in when they're relevant.
Did you find it easy once you'd established that modus operandi?
Yeah, easy. I never find writing particularly easy. I find it a bit of a hard slog.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed.
What was the
thinking
impetus
of
for
the
doing it?
stories.
What made you think now is the time?
I'd always said I'd never write a book, especially about myself, because I thought it'd be quite dull. And then I read Claire Balding's book last year, and went to her book launch and met her editor, and after a few glasses of wine was persuaded that this was actually quite a good idea. And I loved her book because I could see how you can write in your own voice and make that quite
really
jolly. And I thought, well, if I can write it as if I'm writing comedy, the same way I would write comedy, then I could do it. So, yeah, no, I was persuaded.
You did the deal there and then.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean, because I only got the book yesterday, so I haven't read it all yet. It's as if each chapter starts with a sort of a tableau. And there's one where you wake up in bed with your husband, Adrian Edmondson, and then reflect back on how you
got there,
sodded off to holiday while your parents arranged your wedding in 6 weeks flat, and then of course that gives you insights into your parents and that relationship and your family background. So it's almost as if you sort of start off with a start. I don't know where you're going to get led by.
It's like normal, flashbacks that you get on TV. Screen goes wobbly, and now we're back here.
Yes, it is. I don't hesitate to say this, but it is the first thing you've punted out into the public arena since a rare stumble in your professional career. The Spice Girls musical wasn't unanimously well received. Does that matter when you've got so many novelists?
It matters for that show, and it matters for everyone involved in that show. Of course, it does, hugely. But as far as all you can do is do your best, and some things work and some things don't. So
did you think it was good?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I presumed you did, because you wouldn't want to.
No, I really enjoyed it, and I think it probably needed a few more weeks to sort of bed in, and it's just one of those things. Shows come off, shows go on.
Yeah, and it's a brutal business. You don't get that much chance to evolve or improve, do you? Speaking of brutal, you also, while promoting this book and the difficulty in it, you're sort of harking back almost to the days. I imagine you don't think a career like yours could launch in the current climate of television.
I think it's harder. I think it's much harder because there seems to be so many more channels but less TV somehow. I don't know how that happens.
No, it doesn't make sense to civilians. Crikey, if it doesn't make sense to you, who is it going to make sense to?
I just think that the licence fee hasn't changed. It's the same, probably more than in my day. So I don't quite get the atmosphere. And I think there seems to be a lot less trust of the artist, of the person that you're employing to do the show. So there's less originality.
It's almost as if the commissioning editors are as surprised by success as...
And then they want to imitate
the great ones.
Exactly.
It is quite depressing now, though, because the live comedy circuit is actually quite healthy and thriving, but the number of I'm trying to think from your breakthrough years, the names on that list with the comic strip and not just the ones you married, but also the ones that Simon Courtney Peston and Ade Edmondson, husband Rick Mail. I can't quite imagine that getting picked up today.
Fuck you.
I mean, even at the time we were aware that we'd sort of jumped through the loophole and there was a lot of a bit more sort of money splashing about for it, and but it closed up pretty soon after that.
What do you have left on your to-do list? I mean, an autobiography is a sort of it's a bookend in a way, isn't it?
I suppose so. I don't like to think of it as that.
No. Well, no, I mean, this is a bookend, you can start a new shelf.
I certainly shan't be writing novels, let me say that.
Really? Why not?
Because I could write this to make people laugh.
Yes.
And it's stories that I've well rehearsed often with people to make them laugh.
Yes.
And it's like, to me, it's like writing comedy stories. And to sit down, and also because it's sort of interactive in a way, because I would try it out on people and say, should I put that story in and that story in and show it to people? But I think writing a novel, it's a much more solitary career, and I think I'm more creative with people than I am without people. I like to collaborate on stuff.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. And you haven't answered my question. What is still on your to-do list?
Oh yes, bungee jumping, that sort of stuff.
Okay, so
That's never going to be on my to-do list.
Will you do more ab fab? I mean,
I've been
must have been. Should I just say, get a badge for being the 1 millionth person to ask you that question in the professional media?
And because you're the millionth, I'm going to say yes.
Oh wow, really?
There you go.
Is it in the pipeline or is it just?
It's not in the pipeline. It's in my head.
Really?
And it's in my head to do it now, whereas before it was in my head to not do it.
Oh, that's exciting.
So,
what's changed?
Well, I think talking about it a lot, actually.
And seeing the love, the affection and the desire.
Seeing the desire and missing it.
Oh, wow.
So,
brilliant. There's no better reason, is there, for doing anything at all? And that will be... Actually, is that not solitary writing when you do something like that? I'm interested in...
No, it isn't really, because I show it to people a lot, and I run through ideas, and like I'll sit and have an evening with Joanna and go through funny scenarios and that sort of stuff, and so it's collaborative, really.
Of course, yes.
I'm much better if I can't think of something, an idea. The best thing is to go and talk to someone about an idea I can't think of, and immediately it comes to me because I'm trying to entertain them.
Yes, of course.
So it's I like working with people.
One of your daughters is going into the...
Yeah, she's comedian, Beatty Edmondson.
Were you encouraging of that, or were you like...
Oh, we didn't have much say in it, to be honest.
Funny question.
You know, she started at uni,
yes,
and she invited us to her first comedy night at uni.
Right?
It was really nerve-wracking for us, but she seemed so cool. And we were sitting there going, God, I hope she's funny.
God, what if she wasn't?
If she wasn't funny, it would have been a disaster.
Would you have told her?
I don't know how you do that
Just
to your
on
child.
45 minutes on whether or not you should tell your children they're overweight. I imagine two of the funniest people in Britain having to tell their child that they're not funny would be a similar sort
It would be awful.
Rubicon to
No,
cross.
luckily she's hilarious.
And you're not biased.
No, I'm not, because I've seen her
Other people
work to audiences that laugh. So there you go.
There's no it's from the book. Stuff that people there's not that much. I was sort of thinking, do you want your daughter to go into comedy because it can actually be quite an unhappy business? But that doesn't seem to be a vein of your experience, really.
No, certainly not our experience. But I think the one thing I would say to it is keep your options open and try and do as much writing, try and do a bit of directing, just spread it around. You know, you cannot be sort of focused just on one thing. You have to be able to create your own work. That's what you have to be able to do.
And then you're not reliant, your destiny's not in the hands of
exactly.
others. People who think they know you, will they learn anything from Bonkers, My Life in Laughs, that makes them go off you a bit?
God, I hope not. I hope not.
Well, they'll have to find out for themselves.
I hope it works the other way round.
People who don't like you aren't going to go and buy your...
Yeah, well, they might sit in Waterstones just to have a bitter laugh.
Yes, you're right. Just checking the index to see whether you've been rude about them, all that sort of thing. I hope it does brilliantly well. I'm sure it will. Bonkers, My Life in Laughs
thank you.
by Jennifer Saunders is out now. I'd usually say in all good bookshops at this point, don't you? But I don't suppose you care whether they're good, bad, or indifferent bookshops, as long as they're
Pick it
the
up in
same.
Tesco, aren't they?
Absolutely right. It's coming up to 11 o'clock. I haven't decided yet what we're going to turn our attention to next, but given that it feels a little bit like Groundhog Day, we might have a look at the rancid right-wing media's treatment of yet another family with too many children.
On FM, online, on your mobile, on digital radio. This is LBC 97.3.
It's 11 o'clock. Good morning, I'm Eleanor Noakes. Lord Justice Leveson is refusing to answer MPs' questions on the issue of introducing a royal charter to regulate the press. He's facing questions by the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee. Sir Brian has clarified points in his report that says there is a red line.
Not trying to be difficult. I'm not trying to avoid understandable questions, but I am trying very hard.
Hello, sweetie. Any chance you can close one of the Asda calls behind me? It's a duplicate, and I could do with all the spare calls I can have at the moment. I can't. I've got no timings yet, and I'm worried they're going to take it off me and close it. No. I'm at Malden at the moment, at the Tesco's, aren't I? Or I'm just about to go work in progress, but they put two. Yeah, just have a look at the comments. It's the same lane with the same comments. Yeah. Right, okay, cool. Yeah, no worries. Cheers, darling. Ta-da. Bye.
By a militia group was apparently in retaliation
Cheers.